upon a time, there was this chick. She was absolutely gorgeous. Her name was Psych. She was the youngest of like three daughters or something, and her parents were like king and queen, and but she was so stinking pretty that Venus was jealous. Like everybody was worshiping her instead, and they were like, "Oh, she must be the new embodiment of Venus. We'll bring her all the sacrifices." And Venus was like, "No, no." So Venus got really mad. So she sends her son Cupid off to find Psyche and to basically like stab her with the arrow and then stab some really ugly monster thing with the arrow so that she would fall in love with something repulsive. Apparently, this is how Venus gets her revenge. So she sends off Cupid and she's like, "Thanks, sweetie." And Cupid goes, but Cupid actually sees her and he thinks she's pretty. Like Eros, the god of love, Cupid, thinks she's gorgeous. Well, what does he do? He jabs her with the arrow. But then when he does so, she opens her eyes in her sleep and he sees her eyes and she's even more beautiful. And he fumbles and he ends up stabbing himself with the same arrow. So now the two of them, like he falls in love with her because of it, but she hasn't been able to see him because he came in like a ghosty like spirit form. So yeah, so he's now beside with her. Well, the years go by and no one dares court Psyche because she's so beautiful. And Helen of Troy is still fresh in everyone's memory. So everyone's like, you know what? This really stinking gorgeous person, we're not going to marry her because pretty girls bring war, basically. Thanks, Helen. Um, so no one will court, no one will marry, no one will approach her at all. Her sisters get married off, and she's sitting there, and she's rather lonely. I get that. She finally, her parents are like, this is just weird. Like something's wrong, and so they send to like an oracle, and they're like, why hasn't Psyche been chosen? And the oracle's like, yeah, Venus hates you. So what's going to happen is you have to take Psyche and put her up on a mountaintop, and she's actually going to get married to this beast who's going to have sex with her and then eat her. So they have to go and let her get married to this beast, and they have never seen it. They don't know what it is, but they're freaking out. And finally, Psyche, though, she's like, you know what? I don't like the life that I have. Why not listen to the oracle? At least I'm married. So they deposit her on a mountain. But rather than being greeted by a monster, she ends up like she hears these voices and stuff, and she gets led over to this like house that's in this meadow nearby, and it's like there's all these voices. It makes me think of Midsummer Night's Dream, with like the island is full of voices. That I mixed that up. That's the Tempest. But no, anyway, so there's voices all around, and like Zephyr is one of them, and they're like help her with everything. Come nightfall, she actually gets visited by her husband, and she can't see him. It's completely dark, but he comes to her, and he's very gentle, and he's very kind, and he's very loving. This happens forever. Then this becomes their life. During the day, she's served in this like gorgeous palace. She has anything she could possibly want. But she never sees her husband. And then at night, when she can't see him, he shows up. Well, we on the story being told to us side, we know that the husband is actually Cupid, Eros, the god of love, like amour, like he's hot stuff. But she has no idea. Um, she gets to a point where she's like, why don't I get to see you? This isn't quite right. And he's like, listen, I don't want you to love me because of what I look like. I might be absolutely repulsive and you might be horror stricken and never love me again if I'm ugly. Or I might be ridiculously handsome. But either way, I don't want you to love me for that. I want you to love me for me. And she's like, okay, good enough. Cool. Cool for me. So they continue in this way of living. Well, eventually she has these two sisters who show up. And they're all like, oh my gosh, Psyche, you're alive. Oh my gosh. And she's like, yeah, come on over. And she entertains them in her house and with all the like spirits of the air and stuff. And the sisters get very jealous. And they're like, we thought we had the best end of the bargain. We were over here assuming you were betting a monster, you know? Like, and they get jealous, and so they decide to ruin the happiness, as any good sister would. Um, just, my sister doesn't do this. But anyway, so they start to talk to her, and they're like, "Well, how do you know he's not a monster?" And she's like, "Well, no, he's a really nice guy." They're like, "Well, but have you ever seen him?" She's like, "No, but he has this reason." And they're like, that's cute, but he's covering something up. You know that he's just waiting until you're fat enough, and then he's gonna kill you. He's gonna eat you." She's like, "No, that's not." And they're like, "Uh-huh, yeah. Well, if you don't believe us, hide a candle with you by your bed, and then when he comes to you, like wait until he falls asleep, and then light it and look at him. And if we're right, then we just saved you a lot of trouble, and you can kill him right then." And she's like, "No, no, no." And they go home, and she lives with it for a while. But she really, I mean, curiosity killed the cat. She starts get like she's just like, that is a legit plan. So one night she sneaks a candle in and a knife, and she sticks them by her bed, and she waits, and Cupid comes, and it's all sweet, and then he goes to sleep, and then she leans over and she lights her candle, and she sees him, and he's freaking gorgeous. He is the epitome of attractive male. And she's like, "Oh my gosh." And she like leans over him, and as she does so, and not really keeping track of what her body's doing, she like tilts the candle, and a little bit of the wax falls on his chest, burning him and waking him up. He sees her, and he's just aghast. He's like, "I What have you done?" And he goes, and he's angry, and he jumps out the window. He flies away. She tries to follow him, and she actually just falls because Psyche is not a goddess. And he stops to like check to make sure she's okay, but then he's just kind of like flying over, and he's like, "You fool. You listen to your sisters instead of me. I'm your husband. Like, why did you trust them? If you trust them more than you trust me, go live with them." And then he flies away. And she is heartbroken because there was legit love between them. She just got curious, overly curious. And so she is heartbroken. She starts to like seek him everywhere. Meanwhile, he's run back to mommy. He went to Venus, and he's like, I don't know, apparently he's suffering drastically from the wax mark on his chest. So he's holed up at mom's place, and Psyche is running around trying to find him. She can't. She can't. She runs into some guy who gives her some advice. Blah blah blah. Basically, she makes her way back to Venus, and she comes to her, and she's like, "I want to know where your son is." And Venus is like, "Bitch, no, I'm not telling you." And Venus is still mad at her, obviously, for being pretty, and so she like tries to get Venus to just be nice, and she's like, "Listen, I will do anything for you. I just want to fix whatever's between us. This is not my fault." And Venus is like, "Okay, okay, so you'll just like serve me." And so she takes Psyche on as a servant, but she treats her like crap. She's absolutely horrible to her, and she keeps assigning her all these things that she needs to do, impossible tasks. One of them is like sort the beans and the rice, and they all have to be in their separate bags and stuff according to color. And there's like a mountain of it, and she's like, "By the way, have it done by nightfall." And so she's got these things, and but Psyche has help from like the ants and from like this person, that person. She just keeps getting advice and following it, and everything's honky dory. And then Venus just gets more mad. Well, finally, Venus is like, "Okay, you're gonna go down to Hades, aka Hell, and you're gonna get this box of beauty sleep, that or like of beauty, yeah. You're gonna get some of Persephone's beauty and bring it to me in a box, and I'm gonna use it because I'm going to a party." And Psyche is like, "Great. She just literally told me to go to hell. I'm You don't go there without dying." So she prepares to jump off a cliff, but then she meets somebody else who's like, "No, Psyche, you don't actually have to. This is my preferred method for where the term psych came from because that kept happening to her." Anyway, um, so instead she goes down, she travels down to the underworld and stuff, and she gets past like the three-headed dog guy, and then she gets the box of beauty or whatever, and she's coming out the other side. And right then, Psyche's little idiot part like comes out again, and she's like, if I used this beauty, maybe I'd be pretty enough. Cupid would want me back, because that was the problem. Anyway, Psyche she deals with the same thing us girls deal with. So she opens the box. Well, it hits her, and she's not a goddess. This is not made for her. So it sends her to sleep, like an eternal slumber. She's just asleep. She's like Aurora style snoring. And meanwhile, Cupid has started going, man, I really miss my wife. And really, I mean, she was curious. How long did I think that was going to last? Did I really think I'd get her to never look at me? Like, was she really that bad? And so he finally talks himself out of his funk, and he goes out, and his wax wound is taken care of by now. Anyway, he goes out, and he looks for her, and he does find her. She's laying there, eternally slumbering, the little box, and he's like, child. He's like, woman, why can you not just do these things? And so he goes, and he's almost chuckling to himself, and he's like gathers up the sleep and puts it back in the box and closes the box, and then he wakes her with a kiss, which is awfully easy to remember. And he kisses her, and she wakes up, and she's like, oh my gosh, Cupid, I found you, and he's like, you're a fool. He's like, I love you, but you're foolish. Why did you do that? She's like, I thought it'd make you want me. And he's like, babe. And so finally he's like, you know what, babe? I'll take care of this. Okay, what you do is you close this box. You do not open the box. You bring it to my mother, finish that thing, and then I'm going to take care of the rest. So she goes, and Venus is like, what the crap? How does this work? How do you keep working? And meanwhile, Cupid then goes behind her back to Juno, which is another word name for Zeus. And he's like, dude, my mother is crazy, and me and Psyche want to be together, and my mom absolutely will have none of it, and it's driving us both insane. Do something. And Zeus is like, you're right. This has gone way too far. And so he gathers everyone, and he's like, Venus, calm your baps. Like, be calm, be nice. You're a mother, act like it. And the two of you, he's like, Psyche and Cupid, y'all have been driving me crazy. You're together and then you're not, and then you love each other and then you're mad. Like, he's like, no, it's not how this works. I'm gonna marry the two of you. You're gonna be married legit, but it's gonna be God style married, and you guys can't unmarry. Like, this is an eternal wedding. No one else for either of you. This is you forever. And so he marries them, and they are eternally wed. They are one of the few couples that actually gets to that point where they don't start sleeping around in like mythology and stuff. So Cupid and Psyche live happily ever after. Psyche gets awarded goddesshood, much to the chagrin of her mother-in-law. And that is how the story of Cupid and Psyche goes. And it's alternately beautiful and ridiculous, and I absolutely love it. So I hope you enjoyed. I hope it didn't make less sense than actually reading the book, and I hope it saved you some time and maybe was a little bit entertaining. Gist of the story is Venus is a bitch, Psyche is a fool, and Cupid is a weakling. But they ended up happily anyway. Talk to you later.